Hey, and welcome to the last video, video 5 for week 8. So this week we took a look at recording, how we can actually set our equipment up, what equipment we might need to do that, and then also how to route that properly so that we can get our signal inside of Ableton. And then we looked at actually recording sounds, making our own track completely from scratch with all our original samples. And then last video we covered how to clean up vocals with the gate and also auto tuning. So I hope you've been enjoying yourselves with recording sounds and adding those to your tracks, whether you put them in or try to make a completely different track altogether. As long as you messed around with those techniques and got used to them, that's all I'm really looking for. And as I was saying, recording sounds, your own sounds, and using them in your tracks, at the end of the day is going to make your track a lot more unique, and then you'll know for certain that no one else is using that sound because you've literally recorded it yourself. So it can be a lot of fun, and it's also really rewarding turning something that doesn't sound that great into a great sounding sample. Like with this track here that I put together quickly for the example, it wasn't sounding great when I recorded all those sounds, but once we processed them, we actually got something sounding quite cool. Now it does help that I have a decent microphone and audio interface so that I don't get much background noise, and those recordings were a bit better quality. So if you are using like a headset, whether it be your Apple earphones or whatever headphones you got, you might pick up a lot more background noise. But hopefully you can use the gate to try and get rid of that as much as possible. I'm just going to quickly go back and cover a little bit more on the hardware just so you're clear on that. If you don't have a sound treated room, you're in a quite noisy area, let's say you have noisy neighbors or you live on a busy street, you probably want to look at getting a dynamic microphone. So any one of these will do the job. This one that you see here, this Rode Pod mic, is exactly what I'm talking on right now. And like I was saying, I do live on a very busy street. I live right in the city, so if I had a condenser microphone, I'd be picking up every little sound, and it would be impossible for me to speak without having cars and trucks and beeping in the background. So a dynamic microphone will really help you if you don't have a sound treated room. So a lot of you probably wouldn't be in a perfectly sound studio, so this might be the way to go. Just know that if you do want to get one of these microphones, you're probably going to need an audio interface because these will be XLR output and you can't plug that into your computer. If you're in the market for an audio interface, the Focusrite Scarlett is a really, really good starter one because it has very low latency. It's been tried and tested many times. There's a ton of reviews out there for it and they're all super positive. So it has the XLR input here for your microphone. It also has the instrument input, so you can plug in whatever you want through there. And then it has the headphone output, and also on the back, obviously you have your speakers as well. So this uses USB-C now by the looks of it, which is good because they've updated it, and USB-C is the way to go. So that should help the latency quite a bit as well. Hopefully it is USB-C and doesn't go to a USB 2 output. But yeah, Focusrite Scarlett is an excellent starting audio interface. I'm actually considering getting one myself for when I'm on the road or even for doing live performances. It's just a really reliable, handy little interface. If you do have a sound treated room or you don't live in a noisy area and you wish to pick up those subtle sounds a lot better, a condenser will be the way to go for you, especially if you have an audio interface like the one I just showed. Mics like the Rode NT1A, they're excellent. And the Rode NT1 as well. This one has a slightly warmer sound than the 1A. But if you do have a sound treated room, you can afford to get a condenser microphone because they are a lot more sensitive and they'll pick up a lot more subtleties. And finally, if you do want a microphone but you don't want to fork out that extra for an interface, you can get yourself a USB microphone. Essentially, these will plug straight into your computer. They don't need to go through any external hardware. And once you get them installed, they'll work straight away and you'll be able to record into Ableton. So the Rode NT USB is excellent and they vary in price quite a bit as well. I do find with the USB microphones, they are a little more sensitive. So you probably have to do some research. I haven't researched USB mics that much. And then once again, if you're in a loud area, you can get dynamic USB mics. It's like this one here, especially ones that are made for podcasting. They block out a lot of external noise. If you have a quiet sound treated room, you could probably afford to go with a condenser. So the USB microphone option is there for you if you don't want to invest into an interface and buy another mic and so on. But I have found with USB microphones, they're a little bit more sensitive to noise, so you won't be able to shout or make loud noises without them clipping too much. Whereas with the XLR and audio interface, you have much more control over the gain, and it just gives you a lot more headroom to work with. And it does affect the sound quality as well to go through an XLR as opposed to going in through a USB. But USBs have come a long way, so keep in mind that's an option too. Okay, so that's pretty much all I want to cover with hardware. Apologies if you have no interest in getting hardware. I just thought I'd cover it because a lot of people have found it useful, and they want to know what gear and equipment to get. And that's just my recommendation. Feel free to do your own research and come up with your own conclusions as well. There was one thing that I wanted to note from the last video where we looked at auto tuning. It wasn't just applicable to vocals. Let's say you play guitar, or you're recording saxophone, trombone, whatever it might be, any instrument. Maybe not a piano, because usually, unless it's a full-size piano that actually has hammers and you have to tune it, then yes, you may use this technique, but I'm talking about instruments where the pitch can change quite easily. So if you're recording let's say, a guitar into here, it might not be perfectly in pitch. You can use the exact same technique that we used last time. So zooming in here, we can narrow down some notes, and then we can use the tuner to see where our pitch is. So I had my guitar in tune before I did this, so it was quite central. But if you had some issues there, you can also fix the pitch the exact same way that we did the vocals. And another thing I wanted to cover is if you recorded vocals or whatever instruments, chances are that you might not have been perfectly on time, especially if you had some latency going through Ableton. So you probably have to come back in and fix that. So we can double click our clip, we can warp it, and now we get an option to fix the timing. Let's say our timing was a bit out of whack, like that. We can zoom into our clip, and then definitely switch this first to something like complex. And then we can use the grid here to line up our sound so it's on the beat. So that one's a little late there. You can see you want it to be on the beat here. So I'll double click, drag this back. Now it's getting a little late there. So I'll just bring this back as well. That wants to be on the offbeat, which is fine there. And then it's starting to drift again. So I'm double clicking when I do this, and I'm inserting warp markers. The reason I'm doing that is because if I don't double click and I just start dragging this around, when I change something up here, it's going to affect all this as well. Whereas if I double click, fix this, and then change this, you can see it doesn't actually affect what happened before here. If you keep doing that, you can fix the clip without affecting what you've already fixed up. Yeah, that's pretty much in time now for the rest of it. I know we covered this previously, but I just wanted to let you know that you should do it with your own recordings as well, just to make sure you're in time with the track. When you're doing this, if you don't have a beat like I do to use as a guide, you should be turning on the metronome and using that, as well as the visual representation. That way you can really see if it's all in time and working. But yeah, that's all I wanted to cover for this week. I hope you enjoyed recording your own sounds and making your own tracks, and that you can use that to translate them to your own songs that you've been working on since the start. This was quite a fun week in just experimenting really, and we learnt a couple new effects as well. So next week we're going to tackle the big beast of doing mixdowns. So we're going to learn a number of new audio effects, and we're going to learn how to mix down our tracks so that all the sounds are working together nicely, and that there's no muddiness, there's nothing competing, there's no distortion, anything like that. And this is really the second to last step when it comes to music production. So getting the whole track cleaned up and ready for the final mastering stage when you bring all the levels up. So for this week, just enjoy yourselves, have fun with everything that we've learnt. Just experiment as much as you can. Even if you don't have a great microphone, just use what you got. If you don't have a microphone, you can actually just use your iPhone. And I know a lot of producers that actually use their iPhone to record samples that are used in their final tracks. And these are like commercially released tracks that are on the radio. So don't be afraid to use your phones. If you do use your phone, you'll have to record it into your phone, and then you have to transfer it to your PC, but then you can just drag that in Ableton. Use whatever you got laying around. Make some sounds with some objects on your desk or whatever you want to grab, pots and pans. Get creative with it. Just see what crazy samples you can come up with and how you can twist them using the audio effects that we've learnt. So I'll leave it there for this week. Enjoy your weeks, and we'll come back for week 9, which is our second to last week. Closing in on the end now. Let's bring it home strongly. So I'll see you in week 9, and we'll get started on the mix down.